Welcome to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Jones. I am a certified personal trainer, and I'm here to help you achieve your fitness goals without pain. In each episode, I'll share tips and strategies that will help you stay safe and pain-free while you're working out. I'll also interview experts in the field of fitness and pain management. So if you're ready to learn how to stay active and pain-free, then subscribe to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast today. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Jones, and today I am super excited to welcome Kelley Tenny. Kelley is a Galloway program director and a pacer who has spent nearly 15 years using the Galloway method. She's completed more than 100 half marathons, and ultras injury-free. And as a breast cancer survivor, she brings such a powerful perspective on staying active without pain. She is also the director of education and global programs for Galloway Productions. And when she's not running, she teaches AI inside her Women Who AI community and health education at CSU Long Beach. Kelley, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dana, for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I love it. It's like I've been wanting to talk about this stuff, so it's going to be super cool to hear your story and how Jeff Galloway has kind of inserted into your life and really helped you. So how did you first learn about Jeff Galloway and how did you get connected?
Well, this is like one of my favorite stories. So I had run a marathon, like it was a bucket list, a half marathon. It was like one of those bucket list things. I was maybe 29, so quite some time ago. And I kind of thought it was like a one and done. And the Tinkerbell half, for anybody who has run Disney, the very first Tinkerbell half, which was, 2011 maybe, came out, and I live on the West Coast right near Disneyland. And so I decided to sign up for it with Team in Training because I had a good friend who had just been diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I was running with them. And, most of us sign up for races 9, 10, maybe 11 months in advance. And lo and behold, about 5 months before the race, I found out that I was pregnant with my second child. And so I stopped running and I started walking because at the time I was just straight running. And I was like, I guess I'm walking this thing. And, as many people know, Run Disney has a super strict 16-minute mile cutoff. And I was really worried about making it. And at the time, I had a blog called Disneyland Runners. And so I had gotten invited to like a behind the scenes blogger meetup, and Jeff happened to be there. We did a little run through Disneyland, and then he spoke. And, for anyone who knows Jeff, he's like the kindest human on the planet. And he was like, hey, if you have any questions. And I was like, what would you tell me? I'm 5 months pregnant and I'm going to try to beat the Pacers on Sunday. And he was like, you should run, walk, run, and I said, well, I've never done it. That's not how I've been training. He was like, come by my booth. He set me up with a gym boss. I think he had me on a 45-second run, 30-second walk. And he was like, every time it beeps, just like do your thing and take it easy. And he said, here's my card. I want to know how you did. So email me after the race. And I was hoping to not get swept. I think I ended up doing like a 2:58,
Which is lovely.
Yeah, which was like, okay, that's not just like beating the Pacers. That was like a good 30 minutes faster than I was hoping to go walking. I felt fantastic. And I emailed him that week thinking like he's never going to even remember me. And of course he did. And he just said, hey, when you're done after the baby, when you get clearance again, just email me. Like, I'd love to help you get back into running. And so he did. Like, I emailed him 7 months later, maybe. I was like, remember me? And he set me up with a schedule to get me back to running. And I was like, this is amazing. Why do we not have a group here in Southern California? And he was like, you should do it. Start one, and the rest is history. And so, I've always had people ask if I will ever go back to straight running, if I would stop using Galloway, if it was like a temporary thing. And for anybody who's tried like the run walk, I was like, I'm doing the thing. I'm smiling. I'm not hurt. I don't hit the wall. Why would I possibly ever go back and run a straight race? And so that's it's been our Galloway run group just hit 14 years. this April, I
Yay.
think.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Hmm.
So what was it that, I mean, obviously you were doing it for a reason because jostling your child
Yeah.
continuously
Yes.
creates all kinds of physiological issues if you've
Yeah.
ever been pregnant and try to run.
Yeah.
But what about the method, like, drew you back? Because you could have, after you
Yeah.
had the baby, just said, "Okay, I'm gonna go back to running full time and
Yeah.
not doing the interval training," which essentially it is. So what about that really clicked for you?
Well, I had never been a runner. And when I was, in my late 20s and I got this whatever itch to run a half marathon, I dove into running. And there was a good part in the beginning where I was like, running sucks. Like, I don't know why people run. Like, it is painful. It is not fun. And it took me a really long time, probably almost a year, to get where I could like comfortably run even a 5K. Right. And so completing that first half was such an accomplishment because my journey to where I actually was like not wanting to die when I was running was a very long one. And one of the biggest things with that just drew me back in and really made me realize like, there's something to this was after I had my son trying to run again. I was like, I was right back to where I was however many years ago, 6 years before that. Like, I felt like a new runner again. I mean, for anybody who's stopped running, getting back into running is like almost as hard as you're a new runner. And I just remember, I had my baby weight and I was going out and coming back and just almost crying and being like, I could barely run a mile. And I would not have been able to do it if I hadn't been running intervals.
Mhm.
Like it was the intervals in itself that actually made it possible to get that mile in, to get 2 miles in, without having to go back to that just like horrific feeling of just trying to straight run. And so, I think that is really when I found like the joy in running,
That's
you
a big
know?
one.
Yeah.
Can you, for those of the, because I know about Galloway, but for those who don't, could you share reason for coming up with this method?
Yeah, so the Galloway method, there's two layers to this story, and in the first layer that most people know about is that the run walk method actually reduces injury that is very common around runners because when you take walk breaks from the very beginning, you're giving your body the break that it needs early on to not only be able to reduce injury but to avoid hitting the wall. So for anybody that's run, you probably have noticed at some point you run and then all of a sudden it's like you cannot run anymore and you get into that walking component. And so the Galloway method was really designed based on studies that show the more often you take walk breaks and the sooner you take walk breaks, you're more likely to lower your risk for injury and you're more likely to not hit the wall, which is kind of like that runner nightmare that we hear about sometimes, right? And so that is where the physiological research comes from. And then the cool version of that is Jeff will often talk about how when he was younger, he wanted to be a runner and he was just this chubby kid whose dad was like, I don't think you'll ever be a runner. And, going through his own journey and realizing that with Run Walk, more people can be runners, more people can complete a mile run, 2 miles, 3 half marathons, and at the same time, they're reducing injury. So, I really love that component. I think a lot of people thought, you know, Jeff must have been born a runner. And the fact that he's actually gone through, I think, a lot of the pain that many of us go through when we try to run and made running accessible to everybody. Something that always has like my heart when I think about, just spreading the joy of running and allowing people to experience what it's like to finish a race.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I had been introduced to it because I had some PTSD around running because I was in the military. And
Mm-hmm.
also as a young athlete, we get punished by running.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I had made the decision that I wanted to do 5Ks and probably same around, we must like, there must be this like cat call to like 20-year-olds that's like, okay, what are you going to do next? You've gone to college. Like now you need to do adult things. So let's
Yeah,
go run.
totally.
But anyway, so I got that and I just was having such a hard time. It was such a struggle for me to to run. And often by the time I chose to walk was already too late. So then if you've hit the wall and then you walk and then you try to run again,
Yeah.
it hurts.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so to cut that off and to actually go sooner and feel great and get your breath back just enough to lower that heart rate a bit, then it allows you to run a lot more consistently.
Mhm.
And I think that was probably the reason why I was able to complete the half marathons, because doing half marathons for me is probably too long. I'm
Mhm.
more of a
Mhm.
10K person, I think, is pretty much my limit. But just having that pre-scheduled and knowing and waiting for the beep, because now there's an app and you can use the app and do it and
Yeah.
just rotate through it. It's a lot nicer,
Yeah.
and it
It
does
it
kind of
is.
calms you down a little bit too. There's a sense of security.
There definitely is, and, I think one of the biggest challenges with running isn't that it's not just a physical thing, there's just so much mental
It's like
that
90% mental.
yeah, that goes into running, and one of, I think, the gifts of the Galloway method is being able to almost take yourself out of that physical mileage component and, really just stay in your interval, and I can't tell you how many times and I've gone I mean, obviously, pre-30s, I'm running, different, intervals than I am now and what are and of all the things. And, at my peak, I was probably running like a 3-minute run, 30-second walk, doing about a 2-hour half. Now I'm like on the other side, especially after, life gets lifey. I'm more of like a 30-30, 30-second on, 30-second off. But in all of my races, there have definitely been times where I'm just like, just go into the interval, like just get to the next beep instead of like, okay, you got 8 more miles, being able to say, you've got 45 seconds. Like you just got to run for 45 seconds or a minute or 90 seconds. And it really helps you, like you said, it not only helps you calm down, but I think it's just mentally more manageable when you can chunk.
Little bits.
Yes. Yeah.
That's so you have raced over 100 races.
Yes.
No injuries?
I have had injuries that were not due to running. So I have had some knee issues that was over something really stupid like hiking and stepping off of a rock. I've broken my shoulder. Not from running, but getting tangled up with my dog, which is always really amazing. But there was a time, the year I turned 40. So here's my next, like, I guess, decade crisis, as you put it, is the year I was turning 40, I was in really great shape. I'd had both of my children, and I was like, "I'm gonna run a marathon a month the year I turn 40." I know. I say it out loud now. I'm about to turn 50 in another month, and I'm just don't there's nothing like that up my sleeve in this new decade, trust me. My theory was that I had been running marathons, and training for a marathon is so cumbersome, especially when you're starting at low mileage, right? And so I
Mhm.
had been running marathons, and I was like, I don't want to stop because there was another marathon that I wanted to run maybe 10 months down the line. And I was like, the thought of having to build back up to 26 miles seemed like a lot. And so my bright idea was like, well, if I run a marathon a month, I always have a marathon base, right? That's runner's math, obviously, right there, not logical. But I ended up running 17 marathons in 17 months. And then month 18, I ran a 50 miler and I
Holy
had
moly.
zero injury, zero injury. I mean, that was the biggest question was like, how are you not injured? How do you not have plantar fasciitis? How do you not have band syndromes? How do you not have shin splints? Like, how are you not injured? And I'm like, it's the Galloway method. Like it was so tried and true of just like, I mean, and I'm sure you would agree that is so much stress on your body. I don't think there's
Well,
any way.
nutritionally.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I gained about 10 pounds, which was a really
Really?
funny joke during that year. Yeah. Because I wasn't fueling like an athlete.
Mhm.
Right. But yeah, but I ran all of them successfully, no injury, finished the 50 miler, no injury. And I 100% know it's because of the run walk method. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. And, coming back from injuries, being able to come back and start with the run walk method, I think was really something that allowed me to come back and ease into running without exasperating my injury or re-injuring myself and things like that as well. So it's really
That's
awesome.
great.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned that you had breast cancer. And how did running help you during that time? Because that is a very challenging diagnosis and it had to be a
Mhm.
very challenging time in your life.
Yeah, it was. And I think something that anybody listening who identifies as a runner will understand is that when there's any time in your life where running gets taken away, even if temporary, there's kind of this weird identity crisis, almost, if you will, that you go through of this I was a runner and I'm not able to run. And with my particular diagnosis, I ended up needing a unilateral mastectomy, which I couldn't run after I had my mastectomy. And so that was a long journey. And then, right when I was able to run again, I started chemo. So that was a challenging time. And then, right when I was feeling better from chemo, I had my reconstruction surgery, which took me right back to not being able to run for a while. Uh, And it was tough because one of the things that I realized through this was that running for me had nothing to do with the physical benefits. It really and still is very much a mental outlet for me. It's where I feel like I can let my emotions go. It's where I feel like I can let my mind go. You will never see me with these in my ears during a run. Like, I very much, it's just my time to connect with myself and my body and my breath. And the thought of losing that, going through something like breast cancer was absolutely terrifying. And so, I walked during the times that I wasn't clear to run, but when I could, I picked right up with a very beginning interval of 15 seconds run, 30-second walk. Most of my doctors agreed that that was not like a strenuous pace. And because I was taking walk breaks, that was something that was okay. And it was the only thing I think that kept me positive, and allowed me to really just process what I was going through in the moment, is because I still could keep moving. And that was what I had known to do. I mean, I can't imagine what my mindset or mental health would have been like, not having that outlet, having that taken away from me. And one of the biggest things when I went through chemo, my doctors were like, your blood work hasn't changed. Your cell count hasn't changed. Like, what is it that you're doing? Like, we hardly ever see somebody who just doesn't have any kind of physical, side effects. I felt great after chemo. Like, I was maybe tired. Maybe the day after I'd feel like a little hungover, but nothing to what we hear about. And I was like, it's
Mhm.
because I'm moving. It's because I'm still out there. And I really believe it was the mental component of being able to just process. I'd go on these walks and I'd be running and I'd just be bawling down the street. And I'd be like, people must be like, what is wrong with that girl? Like, I would be like heaving and running. But that was really where I was able to get that release emotionally. And I don't think I would have made it through the way I did if that had been taken away.
How do you feel that's helped you as a coach? Because you're encouraging people now and people are coming in with very different experiences, and that emotional release piece is unique.
Mhm. Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is helping. I think being able to talk about mindset and really helping people. I mean, my goal is to always help people shift this concept of running for the medal or running to burn calories or running because of cardio, to really digging deeper into running, what running can do for them. And I always tell my runners, you got to find the joy in running. Like, if you're not having fun running, if you're gritting your teeth, if you're feeling like it's a chore, if you're finishing your run angry or unhappy, like, you're missing the whole beauty of what running can actually do. You know, I I share my story and I talk about, sure, when I started running back in the day, it was about the time. It was about chasing the PR. It was about what medal am I going to hang on my medal rack. And actually, when I
Mhm.
was diagnosed with breast cancer, I took my medal rack down because I went through a period where I was like, I'm not going to be able to run. Like, I'm not a runner anymore. But letting go of that really helped me I think, dig deeper into some of the mental benefits and like the soul benefits of just running, right? And so I really help my runners. And I've had two runners who also went through breast cancer after I did that. One of them did like 4 half marathons in the middle of chemo, right? But
Dang.
really just, I know, but really just helping people see like, there's more to this if you open yourself to that, right? And if you look for the other benefits besides, what many of us get into running to begin with. Yeah.
That's yeah, I get that, and it's funny because every once in a while I stray away from this method because I get hung up in what people think I should be doing or what I'm seeing other people around me doing, and it
Yep.
never feels good,
Yeah.
and it also is crushing to your self-esteem as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it takes a lot of effort to hold on to this method and be okay with it, and I don't know why it's hard for me.
Yeah.
And I think because people misunderstand it, and so I maybe it's because as a kid or whatever, like, "Oh, if you should be running," it's always about the running and never about, like, taking breaks or caring for your body because
Yeah.
there is that care piece that a lot of times athletes don't quite get, where we need to not push through
Mhm.
and that we need to actually listen to our body. And of course, I see massive violations in the Ironman community because there is that idea of the Ironman and people really doing a lot of stupid shit
Yeah.
to complete it. And they're not listening to their body and they're turning off all those signals and they're running when they shouldn't or they're not
Yeah.
fueling or doing whatever. And I feel like the Galloway method makes you really go back to basics where realizing that you are doing this activity, but you're also a human being and that this body has certain demands and that sometimes those demands will override what you have going on between your ears.
Yeah, that's I love that you said that. Like there's two things that I want to comment about that. One is so in the Galloway community, we just started, it's called the Global Galloway program. It's basically a running program that mimics the programs we have like in on the ground, but it's for people who don't have a local training program. And so it was something that we'd been talking about for a really long time. And when Jeff passed, we had this influx of people that wanted to get involved. And so we finally started this program and I'm the program director for it. But we were playing around with it a little bit and we actually, I said, what if we actually had a curriculum? Like what if this just wasn't about let's together and get together and follow a training program? What if we took all of Jeff's teachings and really, put some of the foundations in there. And so week 1 was your runner identity. And I can't tell you how many people said the same things that you just said around this story or this identity that we have about using the run walk method. Like I would be lying if I said that sometimes when I'm running alone and I see other runners, I don't feel like I feel stupid for like, they're like, why is she walking? Or
Mhm.
tomorrow I'm pacing a half marathon at a 3:30 pace, which is a 16-minute mile, which is a very easy pace for
For
many.
some
And
of you.
yeah, so I'm out there yesterday and I'm practicing my pacing. So I'm running a 16-minute mile. And at that interval, we do a 15-second walk, a 15-second run, 30-second walk. And I'm passing all these runners. And I literally am going through this, like, they are probably like, why is she walking? Like, ever, and she's like kind of jogging, but like, why is she just walking so much? And so I get that all of the time. And so that was a big thing that we started with is like letting yourself off the hook because this isn't about speed, right? It's about you doing what your body needs. And the second thing I want to say to that is I actually think once you realize and can shift that thinking, the Galloway method is actually more empowering than straight running, right? The ability, and Jeff always said, you are the captain of your ship. Like he's said that in books. If anyone's heard him, they've probably said it because the beauty of the Galloway method is you get to decide what your intervals look like and how you feel. And he's told me time and time again. In fact, I remember being with him and telling him, I want a PR. I want to break a 2:10. And I just couldn't break a 2:10. And I saw him like 3 days before a half marathon. And he goes, okay, here's what you're going to do on Sunday. You're going to do I think I was running 90 seconds, walking 30. And then when you get to mile 6, you change your gym boss and you go down to a 1 minute walk and a 30-second run. And I was like, okay, that math doesn't make sense. Like, I'm actually going to run a lower interval during the second half. And he was like, you will PR. You will feel better in that second half. And that's going to give you the confidence to PR. Sure enough, I did a 2:07:51 or something. But that empowerment of being able to be like, I'm going to shift right now. And I tell my runners all the time, go ahead and shift on a hill. Go ahead and shift if you feel an ache. Go ahead and shift if you tend to get tired around mile 10. Drop your interval for the last 3 miles. It might actually keep you from slowing your pace. And that is like, I think, so empowering to be able to have a tool where you get to decide based on how you feel in any given moment, what is the interval that's going to keep me happy and keep me smiling and keep me going. And there's a lot of power in that, I think.
I'm so horrified. You mean change the plan in the middle?
I know. I'm such a rule follower, totally. And I was too. I was like, I even that morning, my husband's like, are you going to do what Jeff says? And I was like, I don't know. Like, it really doesn't make any sense to me, right? But there is a component of like trusting the process. And I think that's even true for day to day. Like, there are days where I'm like, I'm feeling like I'm on top of the world. I'm going to go out there and do this interval. And there are days where I'm just like, I don't want to run. And I'm like, go out and do a 15:30. Like, just go, get
Right, be out
moving,
in
just listen
nature.
to the beep. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of days where I am out there thinking I would be in bed or I would have skipped this if I didn't have Galloway.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Kelly, thank you so much for sharing your story
Yeah.
and your passion. How could people reach you if they want to work with you or learn more about Galloway?
Yeah. So obviously, we've got our Jeff Galloway Facebook page. It's a great community. I am all over Facebook under Kelley Tenny, LinkedIn. Always reach out. As you can tell, I'm just super passionate about helping people run and keep running. And there's just so much out there with the run walk community, everything from a free community of Galloway run walkers all the way to all the things. So yeah, we really want to keep moving forward and keep Jeff's legacy going. And so we would love to connect with anybody who wants to try the run walk method. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.